3, 2.
Thank you so much for tuning to Girlfriend's Chat Corner. I am your host, Inga Anderson.
And I'm your host, Miss Inga Rachel Project.
And we are in the house today with Mr. Wayne Box Miller.
Well, you know what? I ain't gonna do that. So I'm like, okay, she went some other way.
I know, I think we should have heard that. Did you not like that?
I liked it. I just didn't know about it because normally we said it at the same time. So you got.
I tried to go on beat with you, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
right.
it didn't.
How are you?
How you doing? How you doing?
Welcome into the house today.
Welcome to the Clizzo.
Welcome to the Chat Corner.
I'm here. I'm here.
So we are here to get to know Mr. Wayne Box Miller.
Yes.
You know what? Now he is no virgin to TV because he's all over. Okay, you created, co-host a winning show called Primetime Sports Show. That was with Eric E.T. Thomas. Okay, you did that. WDBZ the Buzz for 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you created Love Jones Thursday. Now, what's that all about?
Ralph Shepard and I did that. I had just published my first book.
Okay.
And we were looking for a venue to kind of make something happen. And I went to Ralph. He had the only black restaurant downtown at the time. And Ralph and I we always clicked. And, you know, we started talking about the concept of Love Jones Thursday. And then Ralph, being the visionary he's like, let's put some food with it, do a Love Jones menu. And he did this lobster macaroni and cheese and wings. And it just was really something that timing was everything. So it just worked out. I mean, we had people with waiting lists to get tables, and we had
So was
jazz
it
music.
food? Was it just only food and music?
Food, music, and poetry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my block.
And of course the bar was, there. But the concept of bringing poetry into more modern day style with those kind of settings, and I think the setting made the difference.
Oh yeah. So now, was this before the movie Love Jones? Because
It was after. So
I am like a fan of Love Jones because you know I don't know if you guys
Y'all
you
never
know but I have a
watched,
lot of
y'all
poetry
know.
line. I do this poetry gig. We go all around the surrounding cities and do this thing called Rider Poetry and Wine. But it was kind of like based off of Love Jones.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do the name of Love Jones.
Love Jones sparked a resurgence in poetry.
I think so.
And I think the art form is still viable and still vibrant right now. So it's good that it's still going on in Cincinnati.
So you were one of the first in the city of Cincinnati to start this, right?
Right.
And then it started a trend of everybody.
Yeah.
Because there's like crabs in the barrel.
Well, I wouldn't say crabs in a barrel, more so, replicating a good concept.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's so much talent in this city.
Oh,
it
yeah.
just amazes me sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think back when I did it, The Last Black Man, Kofi,
Yeah.
Obalaye, Bo Sweets, just so many people coming every week and just, as we used to say, blessing the mic and everything.
Yeah.
But and the audience was just incredible. I mean, it was just a perfect storm.
And I think too, what I loved is it was a lot of encouragement there. It was a lot of it was like one big family. Everybody felt welcome, and it was just one of those places you always feel safe. It was kind of like going to like family dinner. It felt like.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really was.
Yeah, and it really thank you for that.
Yeah. So what is Cafe Cin Cin then? Is that the same thing?
That was the restaurant. Cafe Cin Cin was the restaurant that Ralph owned. He and Henry. And I mean, again, it was just the perfect setting. You know what I mean? Like you turn the lights down, and DJ Dre would do the jazz music, and again, the talent. And I tell people all the time, I would be last if there wasn't enough time for everybody to get on. Then I would let them go. But again, you had people that were just Gina. I think Gina J was back then. She was just dropping fire. Yeah, and the talent again. Sometimes I would sit back and just be amazed at what was written and how it was delivered.
Right. Okay, so we started with a little bit about you. We're gonna go through this whole thing, you guys, about everything about Mr. Wayne Box Miller. But you know what we're gonna do first?
What?
Icebreaker.
Icebreaker.
And I guarantee you it's a movie.
Uh-oh.
Ingrid. It is not a movie this time. Ooh. What is it?
From what?
Okay.
Do I know my friend?
Quotes from movies, but they're gonna be easy ones. You guys are gonna get this, okay?
So we playing a game here.
Yes, we're
what are we
playing a
doing
game.
with?
It's our icebreaker.
So we're gonna play a game. So the first one I'm gonna do is, hold on one second. Hold on, back up.
Back it up. Back it up. I'm silly. Y'all know that.
You know, but you guys are gonna be happy. Guess what?
What?
She forgot him.
No, it didn't print on here.
Oh.
So you guys are lucky. I didn't do them. It was from Rocky, the movie Rocky. Yeah, I'm trying to quote it anyway. He said, I forget. I can't remember.
Yeah, she said, where are you going next?
You know
she
what?
said, I forget.
At least it's not love of basketball.
I know, right? I really was gonna get down with some sports stuff. I had some sports thing on here, and I also had Rocky Balboa, but I guess I forgot what it said.
She's determined to get them sports chops up, and I'm
Well,
proud of her.
we'll just do random questions then.
Yes, you know.
Yes.
Okay, the name Box. What does it mean in your name?
That's a long story, so.
Can I give you a brief thing what I found out? Hairstyle. Box hairstyle.
Nah.
Okay, the minute.
It wasn't it.
That wasn't it. Okay, what does it mean then?
It didn't take too much time.
Okay.
And you don't have any Kleenex up here. I mean, it gets.
Oh, it's a sad
long
story.
story. Again, harmonica goes with it. And,
Oh, it's not about.
The
Because you know, I was watching.
You just go along with it.
I was hurting because you wore the high top fade hairstyle, box hairstyle. That was wrong.
Never wore that.
Okay. Okay. So what is a theory you think about why the teams never make the playoff? Bengals, Reds never made the playoffs or go to Super Bowl. What's your theory about why you think they never have?
The Reds won a World Series though.
But that was back in what?
Yeah, but you said never.
Yeah, but you
Right,
said never.
okay,
The
not
Bengals
never.
were in the Super Bowl twice. I think sometimes people forget the Bengals are one of a handful of teams that have been to multiple Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think everybody gets kind of fixated on the current, slide. But I mean, at one point they had gone 5 years in a row. And, Marvin Lewis came in, changed the culture, really added value to the operation, and was given room to do that. So you had a tough stretch here where you didn't make the playoffs, and now all of a sudden everybody says, well, they've never done this and they've never done that, and we kind of forget.
But what they done?
Yeah, sports is what have you done for me lately kind of
But
environment.
I mean, to be fair, it has been almost 40 years and they won a Super Bowl.
Well, they've never
29
won.
years.
Yeah. So I mean, they've
So
never
that's-
won one. But again, if you've been there, you're in an elite group, even as a franchise.
Right.
With the Reds, they're trying to figure some things out. I honestly can't speak to that, but I know that with the new operating system in terms of the new general manager and some of the new people they have in place, they want to try to figure it out. But they got some decisions to make. I mean, you got Votto under contract, a lot of money. You got some young guys doing well. Scooter Gennett is probably eligible for a contract. Do they want to give him a long-term deal or not? So, there's a lot of things up in the air. But I mean, they're still viable franchises. They're still good in terms of drawing people, giving the city a little bit of uplift. So you got to give them credit for that.
Do you think though, and this may be an old way of thinking of things though, but do you think that sometimes when you think negative, it pushes negative energy out into the universe?
Sure.
So do you think, could it be possible that because we always say they never win, they never go far, and then as a culture or a city, we breathe that into Cincinnati Bengals, and then they don't go far because they think what we think, that, we're never going to do this. Because they start off in the beginning winning, then all of a sudden it just goes downhill.
Well, here's one thing nobody likes to talk about. Last year, let's just take last year and focus on that. First practice in training camp, one of the rookies goes down with knee injury. And from that point on, it seemed like one injury after another. Joe Mixon was out a couple of weeks with the knee injury. A.J. Green hurts his foot, he's out. Andy Dalton gets hurt, he's out. Ryan Glasgow was playing well up front on the defensive line, making the rotation fresh. He goes down. Preston Brown comes from Buffalo, gets the interception in the first game, is playing well. he goes down, and it just snowballed after that. And so injuries, and I mean, when you have that many injuries,
that's a lot of injuries.
The cohesiveness of the team, the continuity is compromised, good, bad, or indifferent. Those things happen. So I think a lot of times people forget that. Now this year, everybody's starting off healthy. I think John Ross is in great shape and comfortable. AJ Green is back healthy. Tyler Boyd, Tyler Eifert last year who got off to a great start. Andy's back. Mixon's healthy. So there should be optimism about what this team has the capabilities of doing, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, you've got guys again that are healthy. Josh Tupou was hurt. I mean, now so you've got Geno, you've got Sam Hubbard who played great in his rookie year. You know, you've got a perennial Pro Bowler in Carlos Dunlap. So I mean, again, staying
positive.
Yeah, Trey Kirkpatrick is a veteran corner. Darquez Denard signed again. Jesse Bates, who was a rookie last year to start, has a year under his belt. You know, Sean, the other safety, is there playing well. So staying healthy is critical to any sports team's success.
It makes sense to me. I mean, you know, but that, you know, that stems back then, you know, if they can still hold it up as money can be filled, if they can still
Absolutely.
do it.
That's been to go for, you know, a lot. I mean, they still have their core diehard fans that, like, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, you know, believe in them, and I think, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah. There are 31 teams that are mad every year. There's only one wins.
Yeah, there's only one. There's only one.
So, you know, look at it that way.
Okay, we talked a little bit about sports and random questions. Let's talk about quotes.
Okay.
And now, I went to your pages, and I love quotes. I like this, you know, I love to post them, and I love to read them. So you have this one post that what you do today is important because you exchange a day of your life for it.
Yes.
And are you the unknown, or did you make it?
Oh, no, that's an unknown.
Okay,
any of the quotes I do that are mine original, I put my name to it. That's one that I found, and I really like it because I think a lot of times we kind of procrastinate or we kind of go off over here or over there, and you're giving up a day for that, and at the end of the day, can you look at that day and say, somewhere in that day or the sum total of that day, I added value to my life or moved the needle on something that's a big goal for me. So, you know, you as a singer, if you go a day without singing or writing a lyric or listening to a track or kind of concept about something or catch something as you go by and think, oh man, that's a great song title. You know, that day wasn't wasted because that could be the song or the melody of the lyrics that produced the song. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one. You know, but you always did have, especially when you did your poetry, like a really deep insight, and you always dug deeper. And but it was very much to where some people are really deep and it goes over your head.
Right.
And so it wasn't a thing to where you were trying to be over intellectual, but you were trying to be educational.
Right.
And share that insight. And so that's one thing I've always like dug about like your poetry and your you know, like just when you speak in general.
Thank you.
What prompted you to, because you do so many things.
Yeah.
So like what prompted you to go, you know, from doing like, you know, radio and talk about sports, but like what like brought out that like poetry side in you?
You know, that's a great question, and something that a lot of people don't know is that I wrote and have been writing poetry since high school.
Wow.
But I didn't share it with anybody because I thought because it came easy that everybody could do it. And so I devalued my own work.
Wow.
And so for people that might be listening, you know, I would say to them, if it comes easy to you, it's probably a blessing that God has given you.
Right.
More so than you devaluing it because it took no effort.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you know it's a gift, because a lot of times it doesn't take a lot of effort. Whether it's a guy that can look at a deck and build a deck and you go, how did you do that? And they go, well, I just took this here and this there, and I, you know, and you're like, whoa.
Right.
So Bo Watson from Midnight Star was a guy that really kind of helped me come out of that shell because he saw some stuff that I had done. And he said, man, who wrote this? And I was like, oh, he's going to talk about this. Because he's such a prolific writer.
Okay.
And I started making excuses, you know, and he's like, no, this is really good. And I'm like, it is? And he's like, yeah, you wrote this? And I had a lot of paper scattered all over the table. So once that happened, then I started really kind of working hard to come out of that shell. And then honestly, when I grew spiritually, I really leaned into that to get comfortable to share my work. And I remember sharing it at Alex's, the old restaurant on Reading Road, and let these two sisters read it, and I'm like, oh man. And they were like, wow, read this one. And she goes, no, read this one. And I was like, you like it? And so that kind of helped me, and then people along the way kept pushing me to the point that the first book came out, and then Love, and I did the second book, but I'm always writing. I still write to this day because all of this now for me it's like a hobby now. It's just like
that really stuck out. And then one is, in your thirst for knowledge, be sure not to drown all the information.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Because I mean, sometimes you do feel like you drown because so much stuff coming at you. I mean, sometimes even social media can be so loud. You know what I mean? So what made you this? You know, I'm gonna put this on my page.
Sure.
Anthony DJ Angelo was the person that wrote that.
Right. So, you know, I think a lot of times in people's pursuit to kind of be an expert quickly or learn something at a pace that's probably faster than you should go, they start going everywhere. I'm going to Google this and grab that and YouTube this and grab this and saw this article here, and all of a sudden you get all this information and you absorb too much to the point you can't process it.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like, you know, the old phrase, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Right.
You know, get some information, process it, get some more, process it, and then start to move those pieces in place. And I think a lot of times, you know, like you said, social media, you can get consumed.
Yeah, you can.
I think sometimes you got to push back, take an article or something you're reading, and really get into that and see where it takes you from there.
That's great. Now this last one, I kind of didn't understand this one. I don't know if I didn't write it right or not. The truth fears no questions.
Right.
The truth fears no questions. So explain that to me, because for some reason that went over my head.
So the reason that I love that quote is because if you stick to the truth, you fear no question because you don't have to think of what lie you told.
Okay, gotcha.
And see, lie fears questions, because if I tell you one thing and I tell her another thing and I tell him another thing,
you gotta remember all these
like,
lies
okay,
you tell.
man, I hope they don't ask me about that because I don't remember. But the truth is like, bring it on.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha. Now, with all your different careers and your winnings of awards, what career did you like? I know I gravitate to this one. This is what I love doing the best. I know you like all of them.
Right.
But which one would you say that, you know, this is what I love to do? And for a person that's out there that's trying to get where you're at, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, first, you know, one thing I'm very passionate about is diversity and helping people to kind of see the world with respect. And I love that space because anytime that we can do training or help people see through different lenses and understand that there's 5, 6, 7 different ways to understand and learn about each other. That's what I love. I mean, that's something that, for me, that's what I do in my real world. The music and the entertainment and all those things now have moved over here to a place that that's what I do in my free time. But I always tell people, you know, a quote by Robert Schuller, he's a pastor, Reverend Robert Schuller, says, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And whatever that answer is what you should be doing. Because most people, if they knew that they could not fail as a songwriter or a TV host or a person that builds custom homes, then that's what you should be doing, because somewhere in you, that's like just begging for you to just do that. And we all know people that, again, do things that come naturally.
Right.
But for me, when I can sit down with somebody who's different from me, who looks different, who thinks different, whose religion is different, and we can sit down and find common ground, and then maybe not only do I want you to change your mind about me, I want you to go advocate for me in my absence.
Wow.
So if you're in a room full of black people and somebody starts talking about all people of Hispanic culture or this way, then I'm gonna advocate in your absence and say, wait a minute, you know, everybody's not that way. But I want you to do that too.
Right.
So when you're in a room of people that look like you and in your neighborhood, and somebody may start to say something general about African Americans, advocate for me. So being in that space and helping each other understand, man, we have more in common than we don't.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. And that's almost like, even though you guys just met or whatever, and you have these different people that you meet and you guys exchange information, and then you want them to advocate and vice versa. So it's a great way of thinking about it.
And that's why, my latest book that I've done, You Wake Up, You Win, is about gratitude. Because I think the one thing that helps people get back to a place of appreciation of each other is being grateful. So I always say you wake up, you win, and I based it on my parents. They both have passed. My mother died very young, but if you can appreciate waking up, and it sounds like such a simple thing, but I tell people, you can't even get mad unless you wake up. That's how much of a blessing waking up is. And so if you can say, you know what, I woke up today, I won, right? I got another day to get it right. And so the whole thing of gratitude is where I am right now. I want people to just kind of embrace that and understand that if you can stay in that space, you're probably going to get along with more people, and you're going to enjoy life a little bit more.
Now, as you were saying earlier about you advocate for a lot of people. So in your charities, you're with the ABC Creative Beyond the Classroom. You do the Cancer Support Community, you're Bond Hill Academy, the Reds Community Fund for the Rosas, and the Sports Hall of Fame. So within these charities, what made you pick each one of them? Is it because they all were kid related, or is it something that you value within the?
Well,
they're all different.
Yeah, well, and a lot of them are tied to sports in a sense as the underpinning, but the values that they kind of target are for kids.
Right.
And so even in the space of diversity now, where I'm moving more toward working more in the environment with kids and education, I think when you look, for example, the Reds Community Fund, one of the great things they did was create a match program where they get kids from the inner city and get kids from suburban Cincinnati and come play ball against each other, eat with each other, learn. Again, hey, we all love baseball.
Right.
You might be white, you might be black, you might be from Loveland, I might be from the West End, but right now, in this moment, what we love as kids is we love to play baseball. With the La Rosa's Hall of Fame, I was asked to be on the Hall of Fame committee, which was definitely an honor for me. Activities Beyond the Classroom is something that really works with the kids in the public school system to provide free extracurricular activities. So everything that Activities Beyond the Classroom provides, whether it's tennis, karate, chess, soccer, is at no cost to any kid.
Well,
absolutely
no
cost.
What's the age for that?
The ages range from elementary to high school. And so Activities Beyond the Classroom continues to add different programs, and we just did a rebrand of the organization. But it is a great organization because if you have any kids in the Cincinnati Public School, we continue to go out and seek support because we want to put more programs and more opportunities in front of kids, because we know extracurricular activities will bring a kid's confidence up, make them come out of the shit.
So this ABC Creative Beyond the Classroom, is this something that people can look up now? Can I shout it out on your?
Yeah, abccincy.org, I believe, is the website, and it's Activities Beyond the Classroom. And it's something that, again, for me, I really love what we do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Corey Blunt says, I woke up and won with gratitude. Hey, Corey, good for you.
Hey, Mr.
Corey. You all that, Corey.
I've known Corey since he was playing here, and one thing I love about Corey is his consistency.
Oh, yeah.
He's been the same person. He's been a giver. He's been a community person. He spends time with kids. I mean, again, you look at a lot of guys in our community like that do so many good things that we all think about the future, because after we're gone, whatever they learn from us. Right. However they act is going to be a byproduct of whatever we show them. So shout out to Corey.
Yeah, shout out to Corey. He was on the show one time. Other than he's a great personality, he's the funniest person ever. He was laughing the whole time.
People think we're related because we look alike. We're about the same height.
You know, I was just to say that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, so like I said, we're at a chat corner. We always talk about different things.
Okay.
And now we're going to talk about you as a child. I want to know, or we want to know, what was a 7-year-old?
I was in Maysville, Kentucky. Then I was born in Maysville, Kentucky. Shout out to Maysville.
Maysville.
But you know, it was I was rambunctious. I was always kind of pushing the envelope. You know, obviously you love sports as a kid. I love reading. But yeah, I was just like any other kid. You know, I loved being young and in the country, so to speak. I mean, Maysville was a little bit of a city, but where we lived, there was a lot of woods back there. And that adventurous part of you as a youth, you could go and explore and experiment and things like that.
So what was your parents like when you were growing up?
Real, strict.
Okay.
There's this word we used to have when we were growing up called accountability.
Okay.
You know, so you know, if you did something wrong, there was accountability.
For that.
Very loving. You know, my father was a hard-working guy, and I always think that he worked himself in bad health. But they were just like most parents of that era. You know, they wanted better for you. They wanted education to be part of your future, and respect was a non-negotiable factor. So if you didn't address adults, whether they were family or people on the street, with a yes sir, yes ma'am, I mean, those things were dealt with right then and there.
Right,
so,
right.
you know,
Right.
yeah, my parents, it's one of those things you wish your parents was around, because as life continues to evolve, you know, there are things you'd like to do for them. So,
Right.
but you know, they're in a better place, they're blessed, and I know they're watching over me, so I'm good.
Now, are you the only child?
No,
Okay,
I'm
so what do you have?
one of five.
Okay, oh, you have 5 brothers and sisters.
No, I'm one of 5, so I got 3 brothers and 1 sister.
Wow, 1 girl in the whole house.
Spoiled boy.
Oh, I bet she was.
And now she's sister slash mother.
So
But no,
probably
she's
right
a
there.
great teacher. I will say this about my sister. She teaches at Lincoln Heights Elementary.
Okay.
And you're talking about how the Lord will take you down different paths. I mean, she was working in corporate America, and we always thought she would be a teacher. She just had that innate ability to bring kids together and get them to do what they needed to do. And then one day she decided, you know what, I am going to go to school and I'm going to make this happen as far as being a teacher. And then once she's decided to do that, it's just like one blessing after another, after another, almost like, you know, they say you take the first step and God will take the rest. I mean, her testimony is just incredible, but I mean, I'm proud of her. She does a great job with kids, and you see her in her element, and she works with
You're
them.
a proud brother.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
for you, what was like the pivotal moment in your youth when you went from like playing sports to like commentating the sports and like moving into the more of the entertainment stream of things?
Probably in college. I mean, I played my freshman year in college basketball, Apex, but Morehead State University has got that exposure early on. You know,
Pick like a pivotal moment. What would you say was like your life changing moment? Because we all have more than one. I always feel. So I would say your 3, like your first life changing moment when you were in your teens, one when you were in your late 20s, and one when you hit your late 30s.
wow. You know, in my teens, that's hard to say. I think when I think back to my teens and growing up, we moved from Avondale to Kennedy Heights, and I think a pivotal moment was learning a whole new culture and set of friends, and then my parents bought their first home, so there was a lot of moments where you realize what's possible. I think in my 20s, graduating from college, because I had quit and went back, and then I finally went back to school, so I think when I finally graduated, that was like a watershed moment, because I was the first one of the siblings to graduate from college, and I know from my parents, they were very proud about that, so I would think that for me. And then, but later in life, I just think understanding what life is about, you know what I mean? So I think that it was on the cusp of understanding that the spiritual life really is something that you need to incorporate into your life. And I didn't do the best job of it, but I'm saying that moment where, you start to understand that it has value, because my mother was very spiritual and, always praying and preaching and trying to get us to
What
that
age
place.
did you realize this again? What age
In
did
the
you say?
30s,
In your 30s, okay.
yeah. So I think that the evolution continues even to this day. I think that, you just understand, and having a spiritual life is just really a blessing, because in this world there's so much going on that you need an anchor.
Right.
And let's get to these questions. They're just this thing's on fire.
I know,
So let's get to
it's
the
going
questions
out.
over here. Okay, so Ebony says, Mr. Miller is such a positive role model. Corey says, stop box, I got all that from you, Bix. And Ebony wants to know, can you sing?
No, I can hold the tune, but the singer
He
is
can
to my
hum.
right.
Okay.
He can
The
hum.
singer is to my right.
Okay, and then Mark Bowden want to ask you. He says, ask him if he knows the Bowdens in Maysville, Kentucky.
Yes.
He do know the Bowdens. Okay.
Maysville is like a suburb of Maysville.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
like,
Okay.
yeah, you can get there, you know what I mean? It's all good.
Let's see here.
And Ebony, man, what an energetic young lady.
Oh wow, she's such a sweet person.
She is
I just
amazing.
found out she could sing.
She's phenomenal.
And
Oh my God, she does. She started. I met her about maybe a couple months ago. And she started coming with me with her $5 paparazzi jewelry, doing different events with me.
Yeah.
And she's such an amazing person.
I really just, I'm so proud of her and
Aw.
the way she works and goes
Oh, yeah.
after her platform, and she just is really committed.
She is. She is so sweet. Okay, so she says, hello to you, Capri in the house. You may not remember me, but I'm Dorothy Waller's dad's granddaughter.
No, bad granddaughter.
Oh, is it bad?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I know
bad.
Ebony. I know Ebony.
Okay.
And Miss Waller,
See?
yeah.
So she knows you.
Hey, Ebony.
All right. You want to answer your questions over there, Ingrid? She
Oh,
said thank you.
hey, Rena. There's people saying hey. Most of them are just listening. So let me see. Okay. Mark Bolton said this year the Bengals are going to be a hell of a team. Okay. Yeah, everyone is just saying hey.
Okay.
London said, that the Chin Chin was a cool spot. It really was. He also said, box the man, the myth, the legend. That was a good one. I should have said that myself. Hey, on Instagram, how you doing, boobs?
Okay, so I love your story so far. I mean, it's so inspirational. Now, I want to go back to what you said earlier about, because I mean, I'm sure in the audience there's some people that had done this, and then you made a success out of your life. You said you quit college, but you went back. So, what made you quit? What made you decide I'm going back? And how long did you stay out of college?
I quit college. I was having some struggles, and my grades weren't good. And I quit and decided to go. And I worked at the post office in Blue Ash, and they put me on something called a split shift. So you would go in from 5 to 9 in the morning, and then you would come back from 1 to 5 in the evening.
Wow.
And they had just created those bulk mail containers, and they were just very difficult to navigate and move around. It was just, I said, you know what, I got to go back to school and finish up, because
There's enough of this.
I mean, just breaking up your day like that as a young person, you can't really plan anything. So, I just stayed out that one semester and went back and moved back on campus, because I lived off campus, but I was so determined to finish up. And the other point, to be honest with you, I thought I gave the school a lot of money and I have nothing to show for it.
Right.
So I need to go back and get my
Finish
degree.
that.
Yeah, and so I did. I moved back on campus. A lot of my friends were like, "You're on campus?" I'm like, "Look, I'm back to finish and get done and then get out of here."
So that was at Morehouse, right?
Morehead, yeah.
Morehead, okay. You, let's see, you spent the 8 years that you spent on the primetime sports show. Let's go with that.
Okay.
So, how did you get started? Because I heard a story about it, but I want you to tell me the story on how you got it started and what was that creative idea? Did it all come from you, or?
Well, so I'll go back. We had always thought that there needed to be a sports show that had an urban flavor to it, because a lot of times we felt our voice was underrepresented, if at all. And Ross Love, Ross Love and the Blue Chip Broadcasting Group, we're going to buy an AM station, and Jonathan Love called me and said, hey, remember we had always talked about a sports show? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, you need to come up with an idea because I think we're going to have an AM and we want to do a sports segment. So I started thinking, like I had some ideas already.
Right.
So he called and they said, hey, it's a go. Let's talk about it. And I remember calling E.T. because Eric is like a little brother to me. I mean, I've known Eric since he arrived in Cincinnati because I used to work with some of them on their endorsement deals and different things like that. And we had always talked sports. I mean, we would talk all the time, football, basketball, you know, back and forth. And so I had this concept, and I said, hey, I told Jonathan and Steve Love, who was Ross' brother at the time, the general manager, I've got a concept for the show. Want to bring Eric E.T. Thomas on. We got great chemistry. And they were like, well, you should check 2 or 3 people. Well, I can say this now. I didn't check it. I just told them I did. But all along, I knew Eric
will be the one.
because our chemistry was too
so
authentic.
good, yeah.
And so we put together, I came up with a primetime sports show. I don't know how, but it was originally Jonathan Love, Eric, and myself. And then it became Eric and I. And I mean, for 8 years, I mean, people still come up to us both today and say, hey man, I wish you guys were still
Some of those debates were like epic.
Yeah.
You know, like if you think like watching Sports Center now, I think the best way to describe me the closest to it would be Steve. You know, on Sports Center.
Yeah, Steve Day, yeah.
You know, because that you have that wit great. It wasn't always like the status quo, so to speak. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we were able to get a lot of guests on that the other shows couldn't get because of our relationships in the business. So I really, really enjoyed the time that we had with that. I think we did a lot of good things. I think we spent a lot of time with local sports. Andrew Williams used to bring a lot of the boxers in. Drew would bring in Rashid and, you know, Adrian Broner, all those guys when they were amateurs. But we always wanted to promote sports locally because you can watch ESPN and get the big headlines, but we felt like let's make sure we give some love to the local teams.
Yeah, and I like that. You know, the big ones are gonna always get it, but then the small ones, the big thing they do, they don't get any kind of recognition for it. So you have to do that.
It's like that one little popcorn shrimp in the corner of the bag.
Exactly.
It's still a good
So,
shrimp.
how did it end? How did the show end? Because you said you did it for 8 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happened was they changed formats and went gospel. So it's funny in the radio business. There's always a quote that says, "You haven't made it until you get fired." And so I remember walking in one day and I saw Jerry Tolliver, who was a program director, and she said, "Oh, you know, Lisa wants to see you, the general manager at the time." And so I'm joking. I'm like, "Oh, it can't be good if you're going to see the general manager." Just joking, but when I went in, she's like, "Hey, we're changing formats and your show's over." Like that day, it was done. So, you know, all of a sudden it was like the primetime sports show was no longer. So when they ran gospel for a few years and they came back with the original format, a lot of us thought that they were going to bring the show back because it was very successful, but they opted not to. And I think we all missed out on that.
So what do you guys think now? I mean, just moving forward now in 2019 with the primetime sports show, will it be coming back?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever thought about coming back?
I mean, you know, we often thought about that, but again, where I am right now and the space and the passion that I have right now is in the space of diversity. And again, man, you know, for me, it's trying to leave this world better and to change people's thinking about each other. So I appreciated what we did. I think it was landmark. I think it will always stand the test of time, but where I am now and the things I do now that give me so much joy, being able to do that is what blesses me.
That's amazing. You see, you're trying to change people thinking about each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know you probably maybe can answer this, maybe not. What have you started doing like as far as that concerned? I know you went to Block.
Yeah. So, you know, we do diversity training. I mean, we work with companies, organizations, and then I'm moving more into the education space with that now where you're working with younger people. Because I think a lot of times, if you can catch kids early, I always say, my analogy is that if I go get an Asian kid, a black kid, a Hispanic kid, a white kid, a Somalian kid, a South American kid, and find a play box with some sand and spades and buckets, and let the adults walk away,
they'll play.
Everything will be fine.
They'll play together. At some point along the line in their life, they were either fed something or heard something or saw something that made them think we're different from each other. But when they were free to think and only use what they have in front of them, they find common ground. So we as adults have gotten away from common ground.
And also too, we are also too a taker in of our experiences. So, you know, when we walk out the door and we go to different corners of the street or to the grocery store, whatever, our experiences are experiences. So if you come and experience with something that is not favorable, you may take that experience home.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't want to teach it, but you discussed it, they still teach it.
And I also feel too, though, that we also have become a spoon-fed society instead of a well-read society.
Oh yeah.
And so, with that being said, you know, when you see things on the media now, that's what people's view are. You know, as a couple, Soledad, I always mess her name up. Soledad O'Brien just had to shout out the Washington Post and a couple other media outlets for putting. There was a murderer that was convicted for killing all these white women in the 80s. They found him later, but you could see the article, but next to the caption was a black man, but the assailant was white. It was an old white man. So, you know, but it was a young black man with braids. You know, so if you are just going through and you see headlines, all you have is the
Right.
And so, you know, I'm glad that people are finally starting to, people of power, I would say, are finally starting to see that screenshot and hold people accountable. Because like, as you said, it's that, but then you've got to combat the media, home, and community. So, you know, it's a little bit harder than it once was when all you had was the radio and the book.
Right. And you got so many outlets now that bring news, fake news, false news, and to your point, you got to read and think for yourself. You got to be an independent thinker, and I think a lot of times with people, if they overhear something or someone says something who they respect, they got to take it and run with it. And one of the biggest mistakes we all make at times is we don't stop and think, like, okay, step back, right? And this has nothing to do with the specifics of race or gender.
Right.
Even with each other, sometimes we fly off the handle, and if we're adult enough or mature enough, we'll come back and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped the gun and I overreacted, and we mend those fences. But it's hard to mend fences when you want to be opposed to someone, right? Like, I want to hate you because you're this, or I don't like you because you're that, and somebody shows you the reason you can get along. If you just want to not like somebody, you won't accept the truth even if it's laid on a platter.
Right.
You can't give it away.
And it's so true. I don't know why that concept is about, you know, some people think, I'm not sure if I think it, or either it stems back to slavery, they think that because of the house person and the field, that we still have that mentality where we don't understand each other. So you think that because, you know, you're in the house or a better job or whatever that is, that person feels like, you know, I want to get there, but instead of approaching you like, how'd you do that? You know, can you show me, or what can we do? Can I learn from you? Instead of doing that, they start to not like you because of whatever reason that may be. But I also think that sometimes that we come a society, what Ingrid said earlier, is that we're spoon-fed. We don't, some of us don't want to work for the hard parts of life, or the fear of trying to do something, you know, you run from it. Because the first thing people say, oh, I don't want to do that, quit. You don't quit because you can't do it. You quit because of the fear of failing from it. They just don't want to do it. The truth. They quit because I remember times that and I'm a long road of mess ups as far as, like, you know, mind wise, trying to not run from the obvious small things. So now I get to the point now that when I have a task that I have to do, no matter what it is, I jump. If it's wrong, it's wrong. It's not gonna catch on fire. If it catch on fire, I can put it out.
If you survive, you can fix it.
Exactly. So I try to think about ways a solution to get around it. If I can't, maybe I can't find a solution today, but maybe I can find one, or somebody can help me with a solution next year or the next day. So I try not to be fearful of things that I can't or don't know about.
Okay.
But that's a hard thing to do. It's a work in progress. Always doing it.
Yeah.
And then, well, shoot, we're getting to that point where it's almost time for final thoughts, but I totally agree with that. I think, you know, we just gotta keep working and keep growing, but, you know, I just wanna say personally, you know, thank you for the impact that you've had on my life and the positive environments that, you know, made possible. Because, you know, coming out young and doing art and things of that nature, to find somewhere like the environment that it was to have that nurture your art, that being ground. You know, we wouldn't be everywhere. Every stage is home because that stage was home.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I think you guys made it. Again, you know, we provide the venue, but the talent speaks for itself, and all of you guys were so. I mean, people talked about it so much because of what you guys brought. You brought truth, you brought the authenticity, and you brought the pain. I mean, there were times when the spoken word or the songs you sung were from a place of pain. But one thing that I used to tell people all the time is that whatever you're going through as an artist, the reason why people connect with you is because you're a voice that they don't have, or you're a shared voice. Right, because in my dark room or my dark place, I have this pain, and I remember poet Bo Sweets. I think she read this poem about an abortion or something, and when she was walking away from the mic, a lady met her and said, "I thought I was the only one going through that." Wow! And so poetry has that ability, or art has the ability to touch people in a place that can heal them or help them. And so what you guys did by bringing that out and being very open and vulnerable, it just made what we did that much better.
Like always, we go over, but that's such a good conversation. You were such an interesting person. Yes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, good. So why don't you shout your books out where they can find them at?
Yeah, the books are on Square. If you go to squareup.com and just search Wayne Boxmiller. We're in print right now. They'll be out. We did a great, I want to thank everybody on the pre-sale campaign. We did a fantastic job.
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah, and so we'll be doing a book event pretty soon. But again, I appreciate being here because again, every outlet that you have an opportunity to kind of share your thoughts and vision, you know, for me to be in the space that I'm in now about bringing people together and helping people celebrate differences. You know, and understand that it's okay to be different. But let's focus on, I always say there's 6 degrees of separation, right? That's what everybody says. Yeah. But that means there's 354 degrees of connection.
Exactly.
So if you focus on the 354 and not the 6, you know, we'll be good.
That's beautiful.
Well, we want to thank Mr. Wayne Boxmiller for coming to Girlfriend's Chat Corner.
Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Blah blah.
Easy for you to say.
I know, right? Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that way you'll see all of the links and all of the lovely little tidbits.
As Girlfriends Networking Group. Also next week, June 6th, Brittany Marie.
Yes.
Brittany's going to talk about all kinds of stuff, so tune back in Thursday, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.